Imagine a company so powerful that it was once called the most innovative in America. A company whose leaders were celebrated as visionaries, whose stock seemed unstoppable, and whose influence stretched from Wall Street to Washington. Then, in a matter of weeks, that empire collapsed, leaving behind billions in vanished wealth, shattered lives, and a scandal so massive it shook the foundations of global finance. This is the story of Enron, how a $60 billion energy giant went from Wall Street darling to one of the biggest corporate frauds in history. The rise of Enron. Enron began in 1985 when Kenneth Lay merged two natural gas companies to create what he envisioned as the future of American energy. At first, Enron was just another pipeline company, but Lay had bigger ambitions. The energy industry was changing, with deregulation sweeping across the US. Enron saw an opportunity, not just to transport energy, but to trade it. Think of it like Wall Street, but instead of stocks and bonds, Enron was trading contracts for gas and electricity. This was groundbreaking. Suddenly, energy wasn't just a commodity, it was something you could bet on, hedge against, and speculate with. Enron positioned itself at the center of this new market. Jeffrey Skilling, a former McKinsey consultant, joined Enron in the 1990s and pushed a radical idea: asset-light business. Instead of building and owning power plants, Enron would focus on trading energy derivatives. Skilling also introduced a dangerous accounting method, mark-to-market. This allowed Enron to book potential future profits on the day a deal was signed, even if that money might never materialize. On paper, Enron looked unstoppable. In reality, it was building a castle on sand. By the late 1990s, Enron was the seventh largest company in America. It was worth more than Disney, IBM, or General Motors. Its headquarters in Houston became a symbol of modern capitalism. Executives were rock stars, and investors lined up to buy Enron stock, believing the hype that this was the future of energy. The illusion of success. Behind the glossy image, Enron's empire was already rotting. The company was taking huge risks, entering businesses it didn't understand, from water trading to broadband internet. But thanks to mark-to-market accounting, every deal could be spun as a success. If Enron signed a 20-year contract, it could claim all the projected profit up front, even if those profits would never come. This illusion was further fueled by Chief Financial Officer Andrew Fastow. Fastow engineered a web of off-balance sheet partnerships with exotic names like LJM and Chuco. These partnerships allowed Enron to hide its massive debts while reporting record profits. Investors saw only the glossy numbers, while the reality was billions in liabilities being swept under the rug. The culture at Enron encouraged this deception. Executives were rewarded not for creating long-term value, but for boosting short-term stock prices. Employees were told to rank and yank. Those who didn't perform were cut, pushing people to take ever bigger risks to stay ahead. Inside the company, it became a game of smoke and mirrors. On the outside, Wall Street analysts and the media were enchanted, naming Enron America's most innovative company 6 years in a row. The cracks appear. By 2000, Enron's stock price had soared to $90 per share, and its market value topped $60 billion. But the cracks were starting to show. Enron's broadband division collapsed when the dot-com bubble burst, but thanks to accounting tricks, the losses were hidden. Meanwhile, energy traders in California were caught manipulating the state's power grid, deliberately causing blackouts to drive up prices. Then came the journalists. In 2001, Bethany McLean of Fortune magazine asked a simple question: how exactly does Enron make its money? That article planted seeds of doubt. Investors began to wonder if the numbers were too good to be true. In August 2001, CEO Jeffrey Skilling abruptly resigned, citing personal reasons. Insiders knew the truth. Skilling saw the storm coming. Kenneth Lay returned as CEO, but by then, the game was almost over.
Well, I'm delighted to be back. I'm sorry Jeff did resign, but you know he did resign. It was voluntary. I think that's all been pretty well explained now. I tried to talk him out of it. The board tried to talk him out of it. But he was pretty firm in his decision, so the board accepted his resignation and asked me to reassume the CEO's job. And I'm excited.
Enron's financial statements became impossible to decipher. Analysts pressed for clarity, and the company could no longer hide the truth. The collapse. October 2001 marked the beginning of the end. Enron announced a $618 million loss and disclosed that shareholder equity had been reduced by $1.2 billion. Suddenly, investors realized the numbers they trusted were fiction. Fastow's secret partnerships came to light, revealing billions in hidden debt. The SEC launched an investigation. Enron stock went into freefall, plummeting from $90 to under $1 in weeks. Credit rating agencies downgraded its bonds to junk. Banks pulled their support. By December 2, 2001, Enron filed for bankruptcy, the largest in U.S. history at the time. More than 20,000 employees lost their jobs. Many saw their retirement savings, heavily invested in Enron stock, wiped out overnight. Pension funds and small investors across America lost billions. It was chaos. Once hailed as a model of innovation, Enron had become the poster child for corporate greed and fraud. The aftermath. The fallout was enormous. Congressional hearings revealed shocking details of how Enron executives had misled investors, regulators, and employees. Emails and memos showed traders joking about exploiting California's energy crisis, calling it stealing from grandmas. Kenneth Lay, Jeffrey Skilling, and Andrew Fastow were charged with fraud. Fastow pled guilty and cooperated with prosecutors, receiving a reduced sentence.
Andrew Fastow faces 78 counts of fraud, money laundering, and other felonies for his involvement in the Enron Scandal. Prosecutors say he made himself...
Skilling was sentenced to 24 years in prison, later reduced to 14.
For that, initially, he was going to charge that the government had committed misconduct in prosecuting the case.
Lay was convicted but died before sentencing. For many, justice felt incomplete. Thousands of workers lost everything, while the executives walked away with millions. Enron's collapse also exposed the complicity of institutions meant to protect the public. Arthur Andersen, one of the world's largest accounting firms, was found guilty of obstructing justice by shredding Enron documents. The firm dissolved, throwing tens of thousands out of work. In response, the U.S. government passed the Sarbanes-Oxley Act in 2002, introducing stricter rules for corporate governance, financial reporting, and auditor independence. The scandal became a turning point in corporate America, highlighting the dangers of unchecked ambition and weak oversight. Legacy of the scandal. More than 2 decades later, the name Enron is still synonymous with fraud. It serves as a cautionary tale about what happens when greed, arrogance, and deception go unchecked. At its peak, Enron symbolized innovation and the boundless potential of deregulated markets. But beneath the surface, it was built on lies, fueled by executives who cared more about personal wealth than long-term stability. The collapse left scars, not just on investors and employees, but on the trust people place in corporations. Even today, when a company suddenly implodes, journalists call it the next Enron. For some, the scandal was a harsh reminder that numbers on a balance sheet can be manipulated and that even the most admired corporations can harbor rot. For others, it was a rallying cry to reform the system, to create checks and balances that might prevent another Enron. Whether those reforms are enough remains an open question. The story of Enron is more than just a financial scandal. It's a human tragedy. It's about employees who lost their savings, retirees left with nothing, and investors deceived by a system that was supposed to protect them. It's also about the seductive power of success and the dangers of believing that a company, or a leader, is too big to fail. In the end, Enron's legacy is a warning. When ambition turns to arrogance, when innovation becomes illusion, and when trust is betrayed, even the mightiest empire can crumble overnight. If you found this story eye-opening, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more gripping financial stories. Share your thoughts in the comments. Do you think scandals like Enron could still happen today? And stay tuned, because we have more incredible stories of money, power, and the lessons they leave behind.